Good morning, y'all. Today we're going to talk about inverse operation, multiplication, and division. So yesterday we did the inverse operation of addition and subtraction. So we talked about how an inverse operation undoes the operation. So the opposite of addition would be subtraction, and an opposite of subtraction would be addition. Okay, so now we're going to focus on multiplication. And yes, as you can remember, these are opposites of each other. So before we actually go into how to solve them, I want to talk about the different forms on how we can see multiplication. So one way that you can see multiplication is by saying A times B, right? That's one way you can see it. Let's do an arrow. Another way that you can see it would be A and then a dot B, right? That's another way that means multiplication. The third way, and the way that you see it most when you're doing equations, is A times B. When you have two letters or a number and a variable, so let's say I had 7B, okay, that right there means multiplication. Okay, now let's go to division. What are some ways that you can represent division? And I did this in the video, I think maybe 2 days ago or a few days ago. The ways that you can show division. First one would be A divided by B. Second way would be A divided by B. And the third way would be A divided by B. They all mean the same thing, right? But they're different ways to rewrite it. Again, make sure you're writing this down because you can use this during your IXL practice. So let's look at a problem that has multiplication. So I'm going to do, let's do 7A equals to 14. So I have 7 times a number is equal to 14. So I'm going to go ahead and balance out my equation. So if I have 4 times A, I need to ask myself, what would be the inverse operation of multiplication? Well, what's the opposite of multiplication? Division. So I'm going to divide both sides by 7. When I divide 7 divided by 7, that gives me 1. Now, yesterday the goal was to get 0. So when I'm adding and subtracting, I want to get 0. But when I'm multiplying or dividing, I want it to get to 1. So that leaves me with just A equals to, now 14 divided by 7. Well, what's 14 divided by 7? Well, that gives me 2. So A is equal to 2. Just like I did yesterday, I'm going to check my work. Is it true that if I multiply 7 times 7, that gives me 49? Well, yeah, if I look at my multiplication chart, I know 7 times 7 is 49. 49 equals to 49, so that's correct. Now I'm going to throw in another one. Or I'm going to keep the same one. But what if this was written as 14 equals to 7A? It's the same thing. I have an equal sign. I have a 7A and a 7A. And I have a 14 and I have a 14. The only difference is now they're flipped. Doesn't matter. I would still solve it the same way. Okay, you are going to divide it by the number that is on the same side as the variable. So I'm going to focus on dividing it by 7. I'm not going to divide it by 14. So just because the order changed doesn't mean that the number I divided by changes. So on the bottom of your notes, I want you to write the inverse operation of multiplication is division. Okay, if I have multiplication, then what the opposite I want to do is going to be division. Awesome. All right, now let's go to division. So let's say I'm given a division problem. So they're giving me, I'm going to say R divided by 2 gives me 24. So they're telling me here, some number divided by 2 equals to 24. Now, these are the ones that we get stuck on a little bit once we get division. So I need to ask myself, what number can I divide it by 2? Well, I want to solve it by using the inverse operation. Now, I already said the inverse operation of multiplication is division. So then that means the inverse operation of division has to be multiplication. So I'm going to multiply both sides. Okay, so I know I need to multiply both sides. Whoops. But I want to ask myself, what number am I going to multiply it by? I want to multiply it by the number that's on the same side as the r. So I'm going to multiply by 2. Okay, this right here turns into 1. And I'm left with r equals to 24 times 2. So what's 24 times 2? Well, that gives me 48. So I'm going to check. Is it true? Is it true that if I were to divide 48 divided by 2, that would give me 24? Well, let me check on the side. Divided by 2. 2 goes into 4 2 times. That's a 4. Bring down my 8. That goes in 4 times. Okay, and I'm done. And it's true. 24 equals to 24. So on my notes on the bottom, I'm going to write the inverse operation of multiplication is division. Okay, it's the opposite of the other one. So multiplication, I do division. I have division, then I do multiplication. Okay, your IXL assignment. It's very similar to yesterday. Okay, yesterday you did this one right here. Let me change my color. Yesterday you did this one. Okay, so if you didn't finish that, make sure you finish that. Today you are going to be working on this one right here. I can't give you a number. All I can say is it's under 5. So you're going to go to the number 5. Sorry, the letter 5. Oh my gosh, sorry. The letter Z. You're going to go to the letter Z. And then you're going to go down where it says new. Solve one-step multiplication and division equations with whole numbers. This is the one that you are doing today. So today is Wednesday. Okay, this is what you're doing Wednesday. This one right here is what you did on Tuesday. So let's look at some practice problems. Okay, so I have 16 equals to 4W. Okay, I know when I have a number and a letter next to each other, that means it's multiplication. So then I need to ask myself, what would be the opposite of multiplication? What would undo it? So I need to divide. Now, I'm dividing both sides by 4 because the 4 is the one that's on the same side as the W. Okay, that's why I'm not doing it by 16. So I'm going to divide by 4. And 16 divided by 4 gives me 4. So 4 equals to W. Now I'm going to give a little bit of an example. So this over here is what not to do. So let's say I'm given 16 equals 4W. And I'm always used to dividing the number on the left. So I'm going to do 16 divided by 16. Okay, so now that cancels and that gives me 1 equals to... Okay, does this look at all like what this should end up looking like? No. So you end up getting something like this, where you have a number and it canceled out, but it's nothing next to it. You probably did the wrong thing. Okay, so ask yourself, what are you doing wrong? Are you dividing it by the correct number? Now, back to this one. Double check. Is it true that 4 times 4 equals to 16? Yep, that's true. So in here, you would type in 16. Okay, I go to the next one. Now notice it's the same problem. It is the same problem, and yes, I did that on purpose. You have 4z. Oops. So you have 4z equals to 16. Now I'm not going to solve the whole thing. The reason I put it is so that you guys can see. I would divide it by 4, okay? Even though it's on the other side now, it doesn't matter. I'm looking at the number that's on the same side as the variable. Okay, so I wouldn't divide it by 16. So this answer would be 4 again. Hopefully you get something like that so you can get lucky and not have to do the work twice. Okay, now let's look at a division problem. I have P divided by 7 equals to 7. Okay, so I have a number divided by 7 is 7. So what could that number be? Hey, we kind of did this problem, but the other way. So I'm going to go ahead, balance it out, ask myself, what's the opposite of division? Well, from my notes, I know it's multiplication. Multiply both sides by 7. This cancels out, and that gives me 1. So I'm left with P equals to 7 times 7. Well, what's 7 times 7? 49. So let me check. Is it true that 49 divided by 7 equals to 7? Yep. So my answer is 49. Okay. One more problem, and then you can work on your own. I have D divided by 3 equals to 4. D divided by 3 equals to 4. So I'm going to see. First, I want to balance out my equation. A number divided by 3 gives me 4. Some of you guys can do that in your head, and that's awesome if you can, okay? But if you can't do it in your head and you need to work it out, this is how you're going to work it out. So I'm going to multiply both sides by 3. This right here gives me 1, so I'm left with D equals to 4 times 3 gives me 12. Right there. So check if that's correct. 12 divided by 3, is it true that that's 4? Is it true that that's 4? Yep. So my answer is 12. Okay? Again, when you are working on the problems, make sure right here that it says solve one-step multiplication and division. Make sure it says multiplication and division. Yesterday I saw a lot of you doing the wrong ones. Okay, so right now you can go ahead and work on this one. Your goal is to get up to a green ribbon, or work on it for 20 minutes and whatever grade you get up to that 20 minutes. If you have any questions, reach out to me. Have a good day, guys.